Fear less, hope more, eat less, chew more, whine less, breathe more, talk less, say more, hate less, love more, and good things will be yours. Welcome to episode number 11. The title of this week's episode is A Better Way. This week's quote is actually a Swedish proverb, and it provides us with a number of ways that we can live a better life. And again, the quote is, fear less, hope more, eat less, chew more, whine less, breathe more, talk less, say more, hate less, love more, and good things will be yours. Let's get into this first item here, fear less. I'm glad that this proverb says fear less and it doesn't say be fearless. I like this line from a Psychology Today article written by Christine Louise Holbaum. Fear can be your friend in just the right doses, but too much of it can kill you. And here's a quote from General George S. Patton, famous mostly for his exploits in World War II. Fear kills more people than death. One last thing about fear, because we could spend the entire episode talking about fear. I remember vividly growing up in Texas, there used to be an amusement park in Houston called Astro World. You had the Astros, and you still have the Astros, and you had Astro World. And they get that Astro from the fact that the NASA space program is located in Houston. So that's a natural fit to call the baseball team the Houston Astros and the amusement park Astro World. But Astro World had a huge roller coaster called the Cyclone. And this thing was imposing. I mean, just walking through the parking lot, going to the amusement park and seeing this huge roller coaster, this huge wooden roller coaster, and it was painted white. I mean, this thing is just struck fear in my heart anyway. So I remember one year going to Astro World, and I was getting around that age where if you didn't ride the roller coaster, people might look at you sideways and call you chicken and that type thing. So I had to dip my toes in the water, and ride these roller coasters. Now, I was terrified of roller coasters. And so I tried to start out by going to the smaller roller coaster first. And still, riding this thing, man, and going up and down and twisting and turning is just one of the worst experiences in the world. So I don't know if it was me overhearing someone say this, or if someone said this to me specifically. But the key was to keep your eyes open while riding the roller coaster. So, hey, I'm like, okay, let me give it a shot. All these people I see riding the roller coaster, and they're screaming and yelling and having a great time and just like they're loving it, right? So, let me give this a try. Sure enough, the next time that I got on the smaller roller coaster, I kept my eyes open, and it was a blast. It was easy because you can see where you're going, and you're not taken by surprise by the next dip or the next turn or the next twist. You're facing it. And that's one of the great things. Well, I won't say great things, but that's one of the ways to get over your fear is to face it. I went to the big bad cyclone, kept my eyes open, and I had a ball. So that's one lesson we can learn about fear, is to face our fears. Now I'm going to go on to the next thing on the list because, like I said, we could be here all day talking about fear, because fear can be very paralyzing. But at the same time, fear can be a benefit to us. I mean, the fear of falling keeps us from walking off a cliff and things like that. So next on our list is hope more. So fear less, but hope more. I like to think of hope as a positive expectation. A hope-filled life is so much more desirable than a fear-filled life. Probably one of the most devastating things that you can do to an individual is to take away their hope. So please, hope more. And next we have eat less, chew more. So many diet systems would go out of business if we would just eat less. Millions could be saved on diet plans if we would just eat less. Since the beginning of the year, 2017, when I did early retirement, I have actually been eating less and I've lost a little bit of weight. Not on purpose. But the reason is because I'm not getting up to go to work, I'm getting up a little bit later and I'm eating breakfast a little bit later. And so because I'm eating breakfast later, by the time lunch rolls around, I'm not really that hungry. I'm eating really one less meal during the day. But in some ways, I kind of like that because it helps with this, middle age spread a little bit. So in that sense, it's a good thing. But the point is, one of the keys to losing weight is just to eat less. And of course, the assumption is if you're eating less, you're still going to eat well. Try to eat the good foods, the things that are going to keep you and I healthy. Speaking about chewing more, here are 7 benefits of chewing your food properly. Number 1, and I got this from a website called Mercola.com, MERCOLA.com. Number 1, eating and chewing your food better, it absorbs more nutrients and energy from your food. Number 2, maintain a healthy weight. Number 3, your food gets more exposure to your saliva. And your saliva has digestive enzymes. And the more exposure your food has to these enzymes, the more your food is broken down. Number 4, easier digestion by chewing your food better. Number 5, it's good for your teeth. Number 6, less excess bacteria lingering in your intestines. And number 7, enjoy and taste your food. Okay, let's move on to the next. Whine less, breathe more. Pretty much nobody likes to be around a whiner. So please, my friend, whine less. According to the great book, The Brain Always Wins, in this idea about breathing more, oxygen is very important to good brain health. Here is a quote from the book talking about the brain. It is only 3% of our overall weight and yet consumes 30% of our calories at rest and 50% of our daily oxygen intake. Think about that. 50% of our daily oxygen intake is consumed by our brains. And so if you want to have good brain health, please learn to breathe more. And I'm fairly certain that most of us don't breathe deeply enough. That's why I like the practice of deep breathing meditation. Helps get that oxygen to the brain. So, breathe more, my friend. Next, talk less, say more. I'm a product of the 60s and the 70s. James Brown was the godfather of soul music. And he had a song titled Talking Loud, Saying Nothing. One of the lines from that song I really love. And here he says, like a dull knife, just ain't cutting, just talking loud and saying nothing. We could all benefit from this one. I am a firm believer that the fact that we have one mouth and two ears is very instructive. Talk less, say more. Make what you say count. That's one of the reasons a while back I stopped posting on Facebook as much. So that, when I did say something, people would read it and, maybe get something from it. But at the same time, though, and I know I'm getting on a side note here, one of the ways to grow a social media account, especially Instagram, is to post more and to post consistently. And by the way, I want to remind you that you can find me on Instagram, and my handle is @GMillerSnap. Trying to grow my Instagram. So go check me out on Instagram and follow me, and I'll follow you. Next is hate less, love more. Right now in our nation and in the world, we could use a healthy dose of hating less and loving more. But there's something interesting about our quote this week from this Swedish proverb. Notice that the quote says less. It doesn't say that you shouldn't fear. It doesn't say that you shouldn't talk. It doesn't say that you shouldn't eat. It says that you should do all of these things less. I believe that there are some things that we should hate. For instance, we should hate evil. And so if we do all of these things, according to this Swedish proverb, good things will be yours. And this is just a better way of living. And that's why I entitled this episode, A Better Way. And I think all of us want to find better ways of living. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. I thank you so much for joining me. And again, look for me on Instagram @GMillerSnap. And I would really appreciate if you would come over there. And also today, when this episode is being released, there's going to be a solar eclipse happening in the U.S. So enjoy that, but don't go out and do anything foolish like looking at the eclipse directly without a special set of glasses. So thank you so much for listening this week, and I want you to have a great week and enjoy the music. I love this music. Every time I hear this music, it just peps me right up. So enjoy it, and I'll see you next week.
This episode may have ended, but remember, inspiration and motivation are just like delicate flowers. They must be tended to regularly in order to bloom. So why not subscribe and come back for the next episode?
For this week's episode, I thank you so much for joining me. So thank you so much for listening this week, and I want you to have a great week and enjoy the music. I love this music. Every time I hear this music, it just peps me right up. So enjoy it, and I'll see you next week.